Okay. Hi, Danny. How are you?
I'm very well, Douglas. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you here.
Absolute, absolute pleasure. Thank you for hosting me.
First off, I was reading through your bio. You've got a book called Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, which we're going to be talking about today.
Mm.
But it also says that this is your first book and you plan to write a series. There will be 500 plus books written over time. So you are planning to write 500 plus books?
I'm planning to write 500 plus books. I tried last year. I've written five of those 500 so far. The book that's published called Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, and that is an introduction to a body of scientific findings by a German medical doctor, Dr. Ryke Geerd Hamer. The plan is to write one book on every disease. I've written one so far on breast cancer, one on testicular cancer, one on IBS and ulcerative colitis, and one on atopic dermatitis. I plan to write one book on every disease. I tried last year. I thought, right, 500 books. What age am I? I'm 52 years old, right? So I thought if I write a book a week, then it should take me about 10 years to write them all. They're small books. They're like a small Reader's Digest, right? So they're like 60, 80, or sort of maximum 100 pages long. I tried last year. I managed to write three books in 3 weeks, but it nearly killed me. So
Yeah, I bet.
I thought, Danny, that's a very bad plan. So I revised my plan, Douglas, and I said, right, okay, maybe it'd be more manageable if I write a book a month, which will take me probably between 38 and 40 years. So that's the current plan at the moment. And I will start that process of writing a book a month from about September onwards. The clock starts ticking in September.
Are you a
Yes.
doctor?
No, I'm a venture capital investor.
Okay. How did you
Mm.
get interested in all of this then? Was this something that happened to you personally with your health?
Yeah, this is in mid 2000s. I had a close friend who was diagnosed with cancer, and she didn't have the money to fund the treatment. So basically, I funded her treatment and ensured her compliance to the treatment. And while she looked perfectly well when she went into hospital, she basically had 3 rounds of chemotherapy and she died. It was devastating at the time. And she used to message me from hospital saying, Danny, I don't know what these doctors are doing, but it feels like they're putting poison in my veins. Of course they were, right? So when I was in my early 30s, at that point I was in management consulting with no history in either conventional medicine or alternative medicine. And I said to myself, right, I'm going to find a better solution to cancer. And I've been on that journey now for the last 18 years. And I found a solution about 10 years ago.
Was this in the UK? National Health wouldn't cover cancer treatment?
No, no, my permanent residence, Douglas. I live in Bombay, India. I shifted to India on a 6-month posting in the beginning of 1996, and I've been there ever
Oh,
since.
okay. So
So
this was in India that this woman had the chemo and oh, all right. Okay.
and in India, if you don't have money and you don't have health insurance, then people will be quite happy to sort of step over you if you're dying in the streets, right? So um, yeah, so nobody cares, right? So if you can't afford treatment in India, it's tough, yeah.
So this book was inspired by this woman.
It was inspired. It was the final sort of, if you like, nail in the coffin came with my friend. In my entire family have died of in an oncology ward of so-called cancer. I struggle to remember anybody in my family who has not died of cancer, quote unquote. But yes, the trauma that jettisoned me on this journey of finding a better solution to cancer basically was my friend who I inadvertently killed without knowing it. Yeah.
What have you found?
So I spent years studying. I mean, if you go online, you'll find I did a TED presentation in 2010 on nutritional healing. I studied everything. I studied nutritional healing. I studied many forms of alternative healing, Ayurveda, systems of homeopathy and energy healing and spiritual healing. And I looked everywhere for everything. In 2012, I had a really strange cathartic healing experience where for 6 months I had my entire body riddled with golf ball sized knots. I had a very unique challenge in my life at that point where my then girlfriend, who happens to be an American diplomat, was posted to Bombay. Her next posting was in Chile. So we said that when she left, we'd split up. But when it was time for her to leave, we became soulmates. So it became very difficult. So we agreed just before she was leaving on a Friday evening that we wouldn't terminate our relationship. And these knots I had in my body for 6 months basically disappeared overnight. I woke up Saturday morning and it all just magically disappeared. So that sort of cathartic healing experience gave me insights into how the mind and body works, and I had a hunch that there could be a similar mind-body connection with cancer. So I was planning to do a PhD to see if I could study this. And in the process of looking for a university that could host that PhD, I found this German medical doctor who specialized in cancer research and was reported to have a 92% success rate at healing terminally ill cancer patients with a form of mind-body medicine. So I started looking into his body of work, and in a nutshell, what happened to him is that in 1978, his 19-year-old son was shot and murdered. And 2 months after his son died, he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of testicular cancer with metastasis to the stomach. And he was a traditional medical doctor, so he didn't know if there was any causal link. But basically, he couldn't help thinking that otherwise he's a healthy guy, and all of a sudden his son dies unexpectedly, and 2 months later he gets cancer on a reproductive organ. So he was given a 1% chance to survive. He survived it because he had surgery, but he didn't have chemo or radiation. And then as part of his work, he was the head of a gynecological oncology unit as a part of an extended part of Munich University in Germany. And he was working with 200 female cancer patients. So he started interviewing them to find out whether they had gone through a similar type of life crisis or emotional trauma in the same way that he had. And out of 200, 200 had. And fast forward 39 years of cancer research and over 50,000 cancer patients. And what he basically concluded is that the tumor that he got on his testicle was actually functional tissue, and it had a biological purpose. And that purpose basically was to increase his capacity to produce testosterone and sperm so that he had a better chance of getting his wife pregnant so he could replace the child he just lost. And once he understood that fundamental mechanism, he basically essentially unraveled the biological code, including understanding every type of cancer. And what he concluded is that basically cancer is a survival biological program. Nature never goes wrong. Whilst doctors think that cells are abnormal and fast growing, and they're absolutely right, they are. But what doctors do not know is that basically that those fast-growing cells have a purpose, and they have a specific cause. They don't drop out of the sky like doctors think they do in today's medical system. So in my teacher's case, basically, the tumor on his testicle was basically to increase his capacity and increase his fertility, so that he could replace the child he just lost. And if he'd have got his wife pregnant, then that extra capacity would have been removed naturally in the same way it was added. So we have horribly misunderstood cancer, and basically it's a part of a survival biological program that is there, that comes in a life crisis in order to help us to solve a complex or difficult problem.
Interesting idea. What about, now cancer is a big topic and we've got about 3 minutes left on the show, so I doubt we can cover the whole thing, but there's a lot of things that they have said that are carcinogenic, that cause cancer, that are man-made.
Yes.
How would you explain that? Because we created these toxic substances that allegedly cause cancer in the body.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't.
That's how I explain it. No.
Okay.
I mean, what his doctor concluded is that there's only one single cause for cancer, and he called it in this body of knowledge, which he called the Germanic Healing Knowledge, or Germanic New Medicine. Basically, the first rule of that body of knowledge is called the iron rule of cancer, and the iron rule of cancer is that cancer can only be caused by emotional trauma. No cigarettes, no alcohol, no toxins, no Wi-Fi, telephone, mobile phones, cell signals and cell towers, and none of that. I mean, they can make you sick, right, but they don't cause cancer.
So is this in any way connected to Chinese sort of acupressure type of treatments?
There are many, at the 40,000 foot level, Douglas, there are many similarities between a lot of the philosophies in Chinese medicine to this Germanic healing knowledge. When you get into the detail, there are differences in the detail, but philosophically they're fundamentally aligned.
Terminal cancer is a misdiagnosis. My guest is Danny Carroll. He's the author. And you said there are 5 books done. You've got 495 books to go, which is a very ambitious undertaking, I must say.
You can find those on my website, Douglas. It's danny-carroll.com. They can be read for free on my website.
Okay, great. And this one is out, and the others are out also?
Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis is on Amazon at the moment. It hit number 64 on Amazon on Friday. The other books can be found on my website, danny-carroll.com. All of those you can read for free on my website.
Okay, great. Well, Danny, thanks so much for coming on. I know we didn't even scratch the surface, but I think we gave people a good overview of what your books are about.
Books, yes.
So thank you for coming on. It was nice meeting you, and best of luck.
Thank you, Douglas. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for hosting me.